Hola from Mexico. I'm Bob Henderson. I'm the Nomad Dad for the Nomad Capitalist, and I'm going to be talking about home ownership and the American dream. Andrew is our only biological child. We have three adopted daughters, all from Russia, one from Moscow, and two others, twins from east of Moscow, a little bit younger. And they're in a slightly different situation than our first adopted daughter, who recently got married, and she and her husband live in an apartment and continually say, well, gee, should we buy a house? And they're in the Pacific Northwest, where prices have just gone crazy. And I'm sitting here thinking, maybe they should have bought a year ago, because I'll bet you prices are up 15 to 20% from there. But going forward, is that going to continue to happen? Are we going to have another 07, 08, 09 where the bottom fell out of everything? I mean, I think if interest rates go up substantially, that's really going to put a damper on things as far as housing is concerned. On the other hand, you look at the supply and the demand, and there's a tremendous amount of demand. There aren't enough homes for all the people that want homes. One of the reasons is the financial crisis of 07 to 09, where people abandoned houses and the tradespeople left the trade, and then all of a sudden the economy recovers a little bit, and some of those people have gone and found other jobs. And it's been very difficult to find people. Sometimes the materials have been difficult to obtain to build the homes, or they've been too expensive and the prices have risen accordingly. There are a lot of reasons. So I'm not quite sure what to say. But I think as I look at it, housing prices, there may be a dip after interest rates go up. But by and large, there's a good chance that we're going to have more inflation down the road, because as I explained a few weeks ago, it's in the government's and the Fed's best interest to have inflation to whittle away the debt in purchasing power terms. I mean, very simply, rule of 72, if you earn 6%, that means every 72 over 6, every 12 years you double your money. Conversely, if you had 6% inflation, every 12 years the dollar's worth half. And this is a great way to get rid of that $30 trillion debt. So we may very well have inflation. Another thing, I think the younger generation buys into the green economy. And some of the reading I've done recently is talking about spending $150 trillion, which is more than all the economies combined in their gross domestic product in the world. 150 trillion over the next 30 years. So you take the typical millennial, somebody in their 20s, 30s, so that's most of their working life. And $150 trillion worldwide on the green economy. And that they may be willing to do that, more so than their elders. And as a result, that will be inflationary. And the numbers I've seen are 1 to 3% added inflation every year. So let's say that we're running 3 or 4% now, and you add another 1 to 3. That means housing prices are going to continually be more expensive. So if you don't have a house, would now be a good time to buy? If you have guts, it might be. And if you're going to stay there for a long time, yes. But the typical American moves every 5 to 7 years. And if that's the case, well, it might be a little bit more difficult. I leave that up to you, your situation, you know what the situation is. The other thing is, if you buy today 3% mortgage rates, the first house, actually the second house we bought was in California during 1982. We had 3 mortgages that we assumed. One of them was at 13%. So 3% is no big deal. So maybe that's a reason to buy it. Because mortgage rates are so low, so you might be able to stand a decline in prices for a couple of years. But I do think going forward, as the younger generation begins to run the country more and more, you might be looking at a green economy that creates more inflation. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that would be probably positive for those who own homes. Much more difficult for people to get into homes on an affordability index, but it would certainly bode well for people who own existing homes, because I think that this green economy is something that younger generation is much more interested in doing, and that's going to really hurt the boomers and maybe the Xers as well, because if you have a lot of inflation, those entitlement benefits are going to be worth a lot less. I'm not so sure that the millennials are going to be so interested in paying the bills for their elders, because I think in a lot of ways the elders have done the millennials wrong, and I've discussed that a number of weeks ago. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but I think the boomers have really messed things up in a lot of ways. Not everybody, and not in everything that they've touched, but more than I think they've messed up more than they should have, in my view. And I'm a boomer. I never voted for all the nonsense, but I have to take, I have to tell you, obviously, you can look at me and say, yeah, he's a boomer. And I think there's going to be some pushback on that. And so the American dream and home ownership, I think it still is the American dream, much more so than it may be in Europe. But I think it's going to be much more difficult down the road to buy a home. To buy today, tough call. For the long run, yeah, probably. Love to see your comments. List them below. See you next time. I'm Bob Henderson. I'm the Nomad Dad for the Nomad Capitalist.